iPhone camera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, oh, it's working.
Well, that's through your phone. If you mute yourself. And then I'm going to turn the mic so I want to make sure that that's working.
So I muted myself. Okay.
Dina, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. I'm going to close the door because it's really loud out there. Oh, and I'm going to be quiet. Bye.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Bend's Affordable Housing and Community Development Training. If you are an audience member in this meeting, please raise your hand when you have questions. You can find the raise hand button in your Zoom meeting settings. My name is Rachel Egan-Baker. I'm the Affordable Housing Manager. And we'll start with the Affordable Housing in Bend. The City of Bend's comprehensive plan under the housing chapter, section 520, defines affordable housing for the purposes of city policy. That definition is in the state of dwelling units for sale. Affordable means housing in which the mortgage, amortized interest rate, taxes, insurance, and condominium fees or association fees, if any, constitute no more than 30% of such gross annual household income for a family at 80% AMI, based on the most recent HUD income limits for the Bend metropolitan statistical area. In the case of dwelling units for rent, affordable means housing for which the rent and utilities constitutes no more than 30% of such gross annual household income for a family at 60% AMI, based upon the most recent HUD income limits for the Bend MSA. Most people have no idea what area median income or AMI means in relation to the people they know. Here is just an example of area median income in the Bend community. Some affordable housing tools that the city offers are policy and code updates. We surplus land for affordable housing. We offer property tax exemptions for affordable housing. And we have an affordable housing fund to help support financial development of affordable housing. And we help steer state and federal funding through the city. There's a great housing need in the city of Bend. One such tool is expedited permitting and reviewing. Type 1 decisions are typically things like condo plats, property line adjustments, minimum development standards, design standards, final plat, and partitions. Type 2 are more detailed, such as conditional use permits, design review, site plan development, and subdivision. The City of Bend also exempts system development charges. System development charges pay for new infrastructure, sewer, water, transportation, and the City of Bend collects on the behalf of Parks and Recreation. You need to contact the Affordable Housing Manager, that is me, to request an SDC exemption be presented to our Affordable Housing Advisory Committee for approval from them to get your SDCs exempt for affordable housing development. Additional code incentives included in the ADU code, parking bonuses, cottage code, density bonuses, and multifamily property tax exemptions exist. Finally, the City of Bend RFP surplus land. It takes strong collaboration across departments and frequent contact with ODOT and other organizations to surplus property within Bend for affordable housing development. The most competitive affordable housing incentive in the City of Bend is our Affordable Housing Fund. Adopted by Council in 2006, it is a fee of 1/3 of 1% of the total building permit valuation for residential building. It is a fee to address the lack of workforce housing, low vacancy rates, and increases in home prices. In 2020, the City Council adopted the Commercial and Industrial Construction Fund. It is a fee of 1/3 of 1% on new commercial and industrial development. Revenues from funding must be dedicated towards funding programs for housing and support services for Bend households at or below 30% area median income, which is currently $24,300 annual income for a household of 4. Finally, the city uses federal and state resources for affordable housing development. That includes community development block grants, which fund housing and commercial community development programs, including service providers. It is only available for nonprofit organizations. The state offers the low-income housing tax credit, and it is administered through Oregon Housing and Community Services and is a highly competitive RFP process for tax credits of affordable housing investments. Finally, the state also has a local innovation and fast track housing program. It too is administered through the Oregon Housing and Community Services program and is another competitive RFP process. The City of Bend's resources are either through loans or grants. The city provides assistance in the form of grants to public service projects selected for funding through the CDBG program. All other resources are in the form of loans, and these loans provide organizations or both nonprofit and for-profit organizations the opportunity to utilize funding in a deed restriction format. To be eligible for city resources, you must meet a consolidated plan goal for the City of Bend. The City of Bend's consolidated plan is a 5-year goal document on the Affordable Housing Program's website, and these are the 5 goals. The current goals are to create and preserve affordable rental housing, to provide support necessary for public services, to create and preserve affordable homeownership, to assist homeless with shelter and services, and to provide infrastructure for more development of affordable housing and more economic development in low to moderate income neighborhoods. In order to be eligible for community development block grant funding, you must meet a national objective. Families and individuals whose incomes do not exceed 80% of the median income in the area involved. And You must provide low or moderate income housing, a low or moderate economic benefit, including jobs, or you must serve a community that is identified as a low and moderate income limited clientele, or you must address slum, blight, and urban renewal or urgent needs. For low and moderate income housing, rents in CDBG assisted rentals must be set to levels which low and moderate income persons can afford. Households cannot pay more than 30% of income for rent or utilities, and each project must be undertaken in such a manner as to ensure that rents are truly affordable to low and moderate income persons. Examples include programs that offer home repair or rehabilitation, reconstruction of owner-occupied units, lead-based paint hazard evaluation and reduction, home purchases, land acquisition, and many more. If you are creating low or moderate income households, they must occupy any 1-unit structure, and any 2-unit structure, they must at least occupy 51% of those structures for multifamily housing. Low and moderate income limited clientele would be anyone that serves 50% of what HUD considers low or moderate income clientele, such as abused children, battered spouses, elderly persons, severely disabled adults, homeless persons, illiterate adults, persons living with HIV, and migrant farm workers. If you're not serving minimum or those limited clientele, then you must document the family size and income, have income eligibility requirements, and be of such a nature that you're located in a place that is primarily low and moderate income persons. If you intend to apply for community development block grant funds, then the City of Bend will ask you to provide a project summary, a statement of the work, the time of performance, milestones, and a budget. Included in that project summary will be the need and the problem you need to address, the project location, the population to be served, your agency's background. With regards to that agency's background, we'll need to know the mission. There will need to be a nonprofit determination, articles of incorporation, board minutes, actual staff and personnel, financial information such as financial audits or financial statements, a DUNS number and DUNS registry, a business registration with the state of Oregon. For that time of performance, we'll need to know when your project will be shovel ready, if it's development, spending projections, and timelines for when you will report your milestones and measurements. For budget considerations, you should consider infrastructure and environmental review costs. And those financials would include bills, receipts, invoices, payroll records, timesheets, financial audits, and financial statements. You'll need to maintain project records, such as how you're meeting those national objectives of serving low and moderate income populations, your financial records, progress reports, a final report that includes how much you have leveraged the dollars you were funded, and you must maintain those records for 5 years. Remember, you must meet a national objective. So if you are to meet a national objective, you need to have some way to measure that. How are you creating suitable living environments? And how many are you creating? How are you providing decent housing? And how many units have you improved upon? Or if you're providing services, how many people are you serving? Those types of measurements will be required to receive CDBG funding, in addition to the indicators of how much funding is leveraged, the income levels of all the people you have assisted, and race, ethnicity, and disability data. To be eligible for CDBG funds, you must have program management standards, including internal controls, accounting records. You must understand allowable costs. If you have a loan servicing program, there are program management requirements for that as well. And you must have cash depositories, and you must be aware of the CDBG regulations regarding acquired real property. We'll go over those next. So those internal controls require the following. The system of authorization and supervision should include maintenance of policy manuals specifying approval authority for financial transactions and guidelines for controlling expenditures. And you must have written procedures for the recording of transactions, as well as an accounting manual and charts of accounts. Those accounting records requirements are in 2 CFR 200. You must have a chart of accounts, including what federal awards are received by your organization, current authorizations and obligations, unobligated balances, assets and liabilities, program income, outlays or expenditures, and cash disbursements journaled. Finally, it's really important that you have enough staff to adhere to the CDBG regulations. It takes a lot administratively. It is not something that a one-person organization can really keep up with. In addition, it's not an allowable resource for funding an entire program. It is a program to help benefit. It is funding to help benefit an existing program or a program that is adding something new, but that has the structure in place to really create those new benefits to the community members of low and moderate income. I think I skipped some slides. All right. Program management and allowable costs. Those can be found again in 2 CFR 200. If space is utilized by 2 programs, the cost of the space should be allocated between the 2 programs on an equitable basis. Same expenses cannot be claimed against one or more grant. There are some federal prohibitions you need to be aware of. You cannot use funds for buildings used for the general conduct of government. You cannot use funds for general government expenses. You cannot use funds for political activities, and you cannot use funds to purchase construction equipment. You cannot use funds to purchase personal property, furnishings, fixtures, or motor vehicles. You cannot use funding for the operation and maintenance expenses of your program, and you cannot use funding for new housing construction. You can use funding for emergency assistance, that is housing, food, and clothing. Otherwise, you cannot use for income payments. If you are managing a program that is doing loan servicing, those loan agreements must be clear with repayment terms defined, and how any disputes will be resolved or defaults resolved. There must be clear collection procedures and recognition of all current amounts due when past payments are received, and notifications when payments are overdue. If you are managing a program and you have acquired real property with CDBG funds, until those funds are repaid back, if they exceed $25,000, then you must consistently meet a national objective of serving a population of low and moderate income on that property, again, until those funds are returned. Finally, if you receive CDBG funding, you must meet the legal compliance of federal regulations that apply to CDBG funding, including procurement and contracting requirements, property management and disposition requirements, for housing requirements, compliance standards, labor standards, which means if you are utilizing funds for rehabilitation or infrastructure, anytime the expense exceeds $2,000, you need to be paying prevailing wage. In addition, you must meet all lead-based paint requirements. Political activity is prohibited, and there cannot be a conflict of interest with regards to the funding received. Here are just an example of some of the many requirements you must meet in an environmental review. Any CDBG funded project will be subject to an environmental review. And finally, the last legal compliant regulation that's important to remember is the Uniform Relocation Act. And anytime you are relocating someone to rehabilitate a place or transform a property into something different, you must provide whomever you are relocating with comparable housing or comparable payment to find housing of which they currently have. So the Uniform Relocation Act is also stringently followed if you are to receive any community development block grant funding from the City of Bend. If you have any questions, I recommend you contact our Housing Director, Lynn McConnell, me, the Affordable Housing Manager, or our Houseless Services Manager, Amy Fraley. Thank you for watching. Unfortunately, we didn't have anyone attend today or participate via Zoom to ask any questions. I will sign off, and if you have any questions, you may contact me directly. Thank you. Bye.